look at the mapping between the sound and the image, there are a few strategies that will help us fine-tune this. So I've changed my sound file to something a bit more slower. So there's a clear kick drum, there's some high frequencies, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go in our device, and I removed the metro that changes the video. We're going to stay on the same video. Can remove this whole part. We'll just loop one of these video files, and here we go straight from the sound amplitude value into this brightness value. Now we're going to fine-tune this a little bit. First of all, we want to convert the amplitude, the linear amplitude value, to something nonlinear, to something logarithmic. So we can do this with A to dB, amplitude to dB. And this will give us amplitude values. And let's play the sound file. So 0 to 1, dB is from -70 to 0. So now we can scale this, -70, 0 to 0 to 1. So basically we got the same range as before, but it's not linear anymore, but logarithmic. This will be closer to what we perceive with our ears. Now, when we do these mappings from anything to anything, it's always helpful to see the data coming in. And a really convenient way to look at this kind of data in Max is an object called multi-slider. Now, multi-slider needs a range. And for us, this is from 0 to 1. And when we plug this in here, we just have a good old slider. This can already be helpful, but it has more styles. We can switch it to point scroll. So here we have the history of these values. So we can see how this value evolves over time. Now, if I compare this to the amplitude value, whoops. I can see that these are very different. Now, depending on what you want to control with this, maybe you want something that's more extreme here, like these amplitude values. But if you want to control a value that slowly changes over time, you might want to use something that's less extreme, like this. So already a first decision to make. But this kind of object just helps you see what's going on and decide how you want to do things. You can also look at it like this. Sometimes this is easier to read. Amplitude dB. Now, another thing that's really helpful also is to slow the data down. Here we have a new data point every 20 seconds. But there's an object called slide, which can slow things down going when they go up. This is the slide up. Or slow things down when they go down. This is the second value. So when it's 1, it should basically output the same stuff that's coming in. So let's stay with the dB values. Okay, this is the same. Now, I'm going to change these values slowly. Let's make it go up quickly if there's an attack, but come down slowly on the release. Let's change the direction of these. Here. Sort of more natural, like a sound file. So if you look at the lower one, you see how you have all these curves here that come down slowly. That's because the second value of slide, the slide down value, is bigger. Here, let's make this really big. See, now it almost stays up all the time because it doesn't have time to come down. This is like the release value on a compressor. So let's put this back down into something more reasonable. Let's say 9. So we don't have all these little jumps here, but we have like a smoother curve. And we want it to go up quickly so we can get the attack, but maybe not this quickly. Just let's set it to, I don't know, 2 or 3, whatever. I guess 2 is fine. So here it still reacts a lot, but it's just a lot smoother. Okay, so 2 and 9 seem to be good values. And here, let's switch this over to Ableton objects right away. So what's a good range here? 0 to 20. Float, so slide down. Float, yep. And same, but slide up. So 2 and 9, and we add these to presentation mode so we can control these. Okay, now clean up a little bit. Now we're still not controlling the brightness here. There's another handy object you want to use a lot when you do mapping like this. It's called the function object. Function object is basically a curve like this. You can use it to make envelopes and stuff like that. But you can also use it for mapping. So this function object takes y-axis here, 0 and 1. You can search for y-axis, 0 and 1, and x-axis. It's just one value. So here it's 0 to 1000. We're going to set this to 0 to 1, 2. So we have 0, 1, 0, 1. And if we make a line like this, whatever comes in will come out exactly the same way. So this is my slowed down curve. So what goes in comes out the same way. Now let's start changing this curve. So as you can see, because my curve is like this now, the values will go down more. Okay, if you do shift click onto these points, you can remove them. Let's try something like this. Now they stay up more. Now you could do something where they go immediately 0 if they're under a certain threshold. Let's find the threshold. Here we go. So in order to understand what's going on, I mean, here you see it, but sometimes here it's actually helpful to look at the slider like this. So let's set this to 0. Whoops. The range from 0 to 1. And let's make it exactly the same. No, actually, let's make it horizontal. Orientation horizontal. Okay. So this is what's coming in. So if the value is here, the output will be 0. Now we'll add another one, but this one's orientation is vertical. So this is the output now. So we start getting values only if this line here goes over our threshold here. Okay. We could even have it, sort of binary. It goes to full if it crosses the threshold here, and goes to 0 if it's below. I mean, in most cases, you don't want that. In most cases, you want some kind of curve. let's say you want to reach a max here, you want some kind of wiggle room here. This looks pretty good. I mean, this is just stuff you have to work out. Let's add all of this to the presentation mode. And oh yeah, there's one last thing to do. We have to connect it. So now it's from 0 to 1. Now, this we could already connect here. Oops, sorry, wrong inlet. Here. And if you look at our video, this is already looking better. But there's one thing that's bugging me. It's going from it's going to negative values, because if you send this brightness thing 0, it's actually -8. Whoops. 1, it's +8. So here at 0.5, we actually have brightness 0. And then with the negative values, it just stays black, or we get this inverted effect with the contrast. So what I'm trying to say here is, let's just stay in the range 0 to 2 or something. So I could do this here. I could say that my minimum value is 0.5. Okay. That looks better. And maybe not go up so much. But it's a little bit tricky to do this in this object here. So I just want to keep the whole range of this object. And what we'll do is we'll just add another scale object. We'll say from 0 to 1 is actually 0.5 to 1, because that just works better for this object. Now, you could add another Ableton object here to adjust this. I'm not going to do this because it can just go back into the patch and edit it. It depends, like up to you if you want to do it. Don't need these anymore. I'll just leave them around if we need them later. Let's have a look what it looks like in presentation mode. Okay, we need to make this smaller. And here are sliding objects. Getting messy, that's okay. And I think we can save it. Okay. So it's up in the high values too much. We want it to go down more. Now there's one more thing we want to do. This is looking better. But the signal we're analyzing is the full band signal coming from this sound file. So instead of analyzing the whole sound, let's send it through a filter first. And only use only the low frequencies here, around 180 Hertz. Much more poignant. Now we don't go up so high. We can just lower this guy here. Even more. That looks pretty good. Zoom out or zoom in. Let's zoom out. Nice. And we still want to hear the whole sound, so I can actually mute this track. We only use this for analysis. Copy the sound file over to another track. So we listen to the whole full band soundtrack here, but we use this track here only to drive the analysis and the video effect.